Hey, creative friends. Hey, this is Rebecca, along with our cat Lucy. And I just wanted to show you my latest project I was working on. Here I've got some of the final shots in the sunlight so you can see it a little bit better. But this is on a scrap piece of vegetable tanned leather, a very thin piece. And I'm trying for the very first time to do sublimation ink on leather. Sublimation ink is really cool. It was the Cricut company has made it really popular with their infusible ink sheets. They also make infusible ink markers, which you may have seen me use before on different videos. But I now have a printer. It's actually just a regular Epson EcoTank printer, and you can put the special sublimation ink in the tanks. If you get a printer, for the very first time, don't put inkjet ink in it. You can put sublimation ink in it. And so you can print things out and then try to use a high heat to infuse them into the material. But the material has to be a polyester of some type. So a material or a polyester coated item like a mug. And so what I have done here is I've used polycrylic. You'll see some screenshots of it in a minute, but I've got 2 coats of polycrylic on this piece of leather. And then I used a high heat. Oh, here I'll have to rescue it from the cat to save my sample. But you use a high heat to infuse it into the polyester coating. And so I just tested it with 385 degrees for 60 seconds. And it came out pretty good, but I don't just love it. Here's my Cricut design space where I just used that real quick to whip up the design. I had an outline that I layered on top of the print pattern. And then whenever you print it, make sure you reverse it and then print it out, because you're going to cut this out and lay it on top of the material. So it needs to be in reverse if you're printing letters. Well, any design, you just don't want it backwards. So you print it in reverse so that when you lay it down, it'll work out. So the Cricut design software works great. You just send it to your printer, and they call it a print and cut design. So I don't necessarily have to cut it out with the Cricut machine, but I just use their software to print it to my Epson printer with that special ink. And then here's the polycrylic that I used. I ended up with 2 pretty thick layers onto the vegetable tan leather, and it was it went on pretty smooth. Here you can see the piece of leather. It's shiny, of course, because of the polycrylic. The back still, of course, is normal, so it's a nice, fairly supple feel to it. But once you apply the heat, now here you'll notice the line. My paper did not go all the way across, so I ended up with a bad kind of line where the paper is. So make sure you cover your sample completely. And here I'm unwrapping it, and you'll see the very first shot of this. It looks horrible. And so I thought this was going to be a complete failure. It gets very plasticky because such the high heat. And you'll notice the paper gets, it gets hard to remove the paper. And so I don't know if this is just the acrylic itself that was all fuzzy looking here, or if it's actually some of the paper. And I try to scratch it off a little bit, but it's actually, really infused into the leather at this point. But lo and behold, whenever I took it back to the sink to rinse off the piece of leather, all of that white part did come off right away. So I don't love the feel of the leather. It definitely takes on a much harder feel. Here the leather is still wet, and so that's why one reason it looks so dark. And so I tried to get some of those early shots there at the beginning on the next day when we had better sunlight. But it's a neat process. I think this is going to be in permanent now in the leather. But again, just the feel of the leather, you're losing quite a bit because the polycrylic feel under that high heat, it gets very stiff. So I may try this one more time with the actual Super Sheen. I know that's a Tandy Leather product that it's basically the same stuff, but it's supposed to be more flexible for leather. So I may try this one more time with Super Sheen. But I imagine it's going to be very similar. So yes, you can sublimate on leather, but I just, I don't necessarily love it. But I'm going to keep experimenting. It'll be really cool to be able to kind of combine some traditional leather techniques with the leather tooling, you know, embossing different designs in the leather, plus using some laser cut designs, plus using some sublimation. I think it would be really cool to combine all these different techniques and get some cool effects. Just to show you, sublimation is best designed for polyester. So this is a polyester t-shirt, and the colors are super vibrant if your shirt is a light color. So that's what it's made for, and it works great. This is a cotton towel, so I actually applied some of the polycrylic to the cotton towel. And so again, that's a very stiff section of the cotton towel. So I'm going to play around with that some more. You probably don't need as much polycrylic as I put on there. So, but just to let you know that sublimation looks great on other items. But I'm going to keep testing. I'm excited to know that it will actually work on leather, and then I'm going to play around with it to see if I can get, you know, kind of the feel of the leather that I like, and make sure it's nice and bendable. But thanks so much for watching.